Bellular has completed Heavensward 3.0. So that still hasn't even gotten him the entire context of how awesome Heavensward is. I mean, it is pretty awesome, but there's even more stuff to it than the stuff that he's seen so far. But let's see what he has to say.
Okay, I've done it, finally. Right.
Oh yeah, major spoilers. Obviously, I guess I should warn everybody there's going to be major Heavensward spoilers in this video, in case you didn't get the idea.
3.0, Heavensward. I have completed the expansion thus far. I've completed the base expansion experience, and it's time to have a chat. Because, well, yeah, it certainly is a step up from A Realm Reborn, god damn.
Oh yeah!
Of course, there'll be a lot more going on with this channel, so, get sub, follow along. We'll have some nice announcements as we hit November.
There'll be a lot more. Let me see, Bellular, because previously I've stated that this channel will eventually be renamed Bellular FFXIV. And if we look here, let's just take a gander. Final Fantasy, 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 New World, Final Fantasy. So you've released 9 videos, 8 of which were Final Fantasy. Yes, Bellular, give in!
And let's just talk about it. Okay, Heavensward. It's the expansion where our characters really learn and they grow, right? It's kind of where, rather knowing loads of people for a little bit, we do a deeper dive on a smaller core cast of characters and just go on an adventure. A Realm Reborn is so broad. It had so much set up to do, the primal whack-a-mole against the backdrop of Gaius's plans, which obviously then led into marvelous patch narrative content, especially as the Heavenswardy bits came in. And as for Heavensward, it is much different, and it really is you, Alphino, and Tataru sort of cast out, reeling from the end of A Realm Reborn's patches.
This was such a key moment in Heavensward. To me, at least, for my personal, I mean, I'm sure that everyone has feelings, but to me, the whole thing about, you have all these friends at the end of Realm Reborn, right? You have the Sons of the Seventh Dawn, and then one by one, they all fall to make sure that you can get away. Like, they all sacrifice themselves for you. It's amazing. I just think that, the ending of Realm Reborn is fucking amazing and really sets things up for Heavensward in a way that, you just don't see a lot of, in a lot of games where they do stories so friggin' well told. It's amazing. I loved it, and it was very special.
That's the massive leg up that this expansion has. It is so well motivated. I mean, it takes place as you and all your characters feel kind of shattered from what you go through. You've got such a good reason to care for your companions. And if A Realm Reborn was about forming the Scions, Heavensward is about rebuilding them slowly and with more heart. Because we get to know these characters just in a more one-on-one close way and through a lot more of that shared trauma. This stripped down core cast just means more focus, more time with each character, and I really am just left with this feeling that this expansion is building the beating heart of the game's future. At the very least, from a character perspective, it seems to be doing that. Now, what's even more smart is the use of A Realm Reborn's final 2 patches. Characters like Lady Iceheart, Sir Emmerich, Lucia, Horschfont, they're all set up before you hit 3.0. And it's this blending, of the final patches of ARR setting up Heavensward. It's this blending of the expansion storylines, and really just them all being one storyline. That's what's let them pace their character introductions perfectly. You don't have those situations where you just have this big slog of meeting 500,000 new people or some big unwieldy, cast. It just paces it all well. So much of Heavensward is it being fantastic on its own terms, but importantly, it's also it cashing in on the victories of A Realm Reborn's patches. And that's important. It's not,
Yep.
oh, here's a new story. It's, here is the next big chapter that we know you've been waiting for. And as long as you're along for that ride, that's extremely exciting. It almost feels like, it makes a WoW expansion almost feel like a new entry in an anthology because of the level of disconnect you can sometimes feel. And I've got to say, once you're on the ride with FF, you're in and you're going. Okay, let's talk about the pace of this big ride.
Dude, the pace of Heavensward is fucking
pacing.
excellent.
It is, bar a little bit in the middle, I would say, pretty much nailed. So while mostly it is A plot, Heavensward does of course have the B plot that is following on from the ARR politics. And they really get this bit good. So right as you explore for a bit, you begin to understand Ishgard society, you get your first surprise. And, you know, one bout of Ishgard justice system later, and they have built up the looming threat. And, you know, then you're whisked off to do a jailbreak. And there's just so many great things going on, and you really do feel quite pumped. And all of this plot, it's just so well set up and so motivated. And then bam, you're back in Ishgard, and the story is heavily building on the Iceheart plotline. You've met Estinian, and really, without you knowing it, like the gang has kind of came together. It's all very smooth. I'd certainly say that it's shortly after the gang gets together, there is a bit of a pacing dip. I think they kind of run out of steam just a little bit with our first Primal. Now, of course, I get why, like, the Primal fights are very cool, we want to have them in the game, but just dealing with that, and was it the Dravanian... Anyway, it was like a little bit of a sort of break in the pace. But shortly after that, though, I mean, it's Dragon time. You're getting your big revelations, ones that are going, you know, really into the thick of the Dragon Song War lore.
Dude, he's going deep into G-Shade, making me want to do G-Shade as well. But I feel like his G-Shade is like maybe a bit much, Bellular. Like, Jesus, fuck. Like, look at all the shadows everywhere. It's like everything's mega smoothed out. I think his is going a little bit too far.
And from that, from that point on, is just one big fast ride to the finish that is just packed with moments. I'm sure you know some of them. So let's talk about lore. I haven't been able to do this as much because I'm newer to the setting. I'll say I'm very glad that I did Bahamut before 3.0.
Yes!
Now, the Ishgardians, they really did just feel like a pack of wankers from the outset, right? With just how their society was constructed, them being a bit more sort of, cold to the Eorzean alliance. But through characters like Sir Amric and Edmond de Fortemps, they start you to just get liking these characters for really who they could be as an overall society, even though you can see their flaws. And I think that's the thing. Ishgard, it's a nation built on a lie. And for me, I do find that whole foundational myth thing to be fascinating. I mean, by the end, I'm now expecting that I'll be seeing this nation come to terms with what it actually did and essentially evolve. But evolve in the face of a threat that really doesn't give a shit that it's going to evolve. So, will Ishgard be less aristocratic? What will happen of the lower classes, the class structure? How will their religion work into all of this? And how are they going to basically perceive their sense of, like, societal meaning or whatever when the core of their faith has been shattered? So it's all operating in those, like, real nice levels. So I like the Ishgard lore, and much like with Ul'dah, it's really great to see Square actually tackle topics like this. There's more of a civilizational angle to things, and they actually give these
things actually
the
make
runtime
sense.
they deserve. I think that's great. And then we've got the dragons. I love the dragon lore. I mean, especially if you paid attention to your Allagan history, and then you understand, the whole thing with the dragon's perception of time. It's a great way to have these dragons act as, yes, overarching villains on the face of things, but in a way where you really do get that they feel wronged by, and they really have been wronged. They're these immortal beings who experience yesterday's trauma very much as if it were right now. And you get the sense that through, all the things you think about a dragon, they actually are these very deep emotional beings that kind of carry the weight of, millennia, of life experience. They've been basically oppressed for thousands of years and treated horribly, especially by the Allagans. And, the one recent time where they did find some peace, I mean, in peace by, their perception of time, like that may as well have been yesterday. What happened? Well, they're quickly and brutally betrayed. So sure, Nidhogg's response may not be the most reasonable thing in the universe, but when you take the Allagan oppression into account, the story of Bahamut, and I mean, it's really cool, and you get to meet Tiamat as well. I mean, you get it. You do understand why Iceheart did what she did. And also the very human aspects that maybe led her a bit astray, and the assumptions that she had. And then there's just, the dragons are cool, right? The sound of their language, the way that they speak. They do not feel like beasts, and that does make them a compelling antagonist, and as far as they are antagonists, which isn't 100%. Now, all the while, of course, we've got the established primal lore running its course, things like that. It does truly feel like a game that is building and building, with the past revelations very much being woven into the current experiences. I'm certainly saying that, thinking about some of those cutscenes at the end. I mean, look, most good stories do that. Obviously, they weave all their things together. It's just sometimes in segments of gaming, you're not used to that as much, and it's really nice to see it in an MMO that can also scratch all those MMO itches. So there's some lore thoughts, some pacing thoughts. Next, I want to change gears, though.
Presentation.
Let's talk about presentation, because, I mean, even though this had to run on a PS3, this is an expansion that looks and feels great. It's a step up from what I was used to.
Dude, look at the amount of G-shade you put on the game, though. Of course it feels great. It doesn't look like that on the PlayStation 3, I can tell you that.
The game, though, is in craft. The camera angles, the cutscenes, the way they do all of that.
The cinematic experience of Final Fantasy XIV cannot be understated. It is... Like, I've even mentioned this in the video that I released recently, like yesterday. They have this mastery of cinematic moments that does make everything way more special. Like, you could put this same story and not have the visual presentation that they have, and it would not hit as hard as it does.
The way, basically, they use the limited tools that they've got to tell this story. They're clearly a bit more confident, a bit more used to their tools, and then the increase in voice acting quality has had a massive impact. I mean, simply, you can really feel a line in a character when it's acted well, and here they are. I mean, that bit, smile better, suits a hero, like, glad that was voice acted. It really helped it work.
Okay, it's not going to show.
So they've stepped up their voiceover game to a pretty absurd degree, honestly. I mean, previously, like, Sam Riegel's Alphino, I thought that was actually pretty good, but for me, a lot of the other cast were kind of iffy. And sure, new Alphino does take, like, a bit of a second to adjust to, but, like, overall...
Everybody instantly told me when I got to Heavensward, it's like, oh, isn't the new Alphino way better? And I was like, I don't know about that. I like the old one. I never had a problem with the old one, but it gets better over time.
Across the board, the VO is so much better, and it really helps the game so much, especially when they use it so much more. And I have this sense that with a production like this, they can pretty much now pull off whatever they want. And it'll be exciting to see that as I move into, the patches, Stormblood and Shadowbringers, where...
Press F. Okay, can we get F's in chat for the start of Stormblood? Like, I'm sorry. The start of Stormblood... It's rough, dude. The start of Stormblood is rough. It is. I would say after the big event that takes place in Azim Steppes, after that, then it starts picking up and it feels good. But the start of Stormblood, dude, right up until that point where the big event happens in Azim Steppe, it is rough, dude. So it's like, that was hard for me. The start of Stormblood was harder than certain parts of Realm Reborn. Solo Dragon, I remember almost nothing about the start of Stormblood. I am not surprised. I'm not surprised in the slightest.
Of course, time will pass and they'll get more used to their techniques and they'll develop things. And I mean, versus World of Warcraft,
and also
as well,
Lys.
It's just the quantity of voice lines.
And I've seen a clip recently from Pyromancers where he's like, the worst part about Stormblood is Lys. And I was like, yep, I agree.
the caliber of, not necessarily the caliber of the acting, maybe the writing or the direction.
Bro,
like,
Setsu's amazing,
really
yeah.
strong here. I mean, no shit, they can tell a better story in FF14. They actually take their time to tell the damn thing. And that's important. I mean,
Imagine taking the time to tell a story instead of sending you to collect 10 bear asses. This is good shit.
Put it this way, they could tell a worse story better and therefore would come out ahead in terms of player experience. And I think all of this continually just shows me that with World of Warcraft, again, with its new narrative ambitions that it absolutely does seem to have, that it just needs to recalibrate itself and really think deeply about how FF14 can do all of this stuff so well, even though it's got a lower budget and, you know, doesn't have big expensive CG cinematics and all of that stuff.
To be honest, I'm not even sure if Blizzard should be competing in that arena. Because, like, let's face it, the player base that they have kind of, like, serviced over the years and the way that they've trained that player base, they don't care. I mean, I'll even as myself, I don't care. Like, there was maybe one or two storylines that I liked during Wrath of the Lich King, but most of the storylines in WoW, I've never really cared that much. Which is actually the only way that you're able to play Warlords of Draenor, because good fucking God, dude. Whatever they did to the story with that, it's just like some serious mindfuckery. But it's like, I almost feel like Blizzard doesn't have to. You know, I know that I meme on it a lot. It's like, oh, imagine telling a story in your game and all of that stuff. I do feel that there are more things that should be explained in game, big events that should be explained in game, but they don't have to be told the same way that 14 tells them. You just have to tell them in whatever way you feel is best. But you don't have to be like, oh, we need to have a cinematic. We need to have like this big narrative experience because that's what Final Fantasy 14 is doing. They don't have to do that. What they do have to do is provide players with satisfying gameplay, as opposed to forcing them with chores down their fucking throat, cramming shit down players' throats like, eat it. And you're like, I don't want it, Daddy. Eat the shit. Eat it. And it's like, you know, that's terrible because they're just forcing you with chores. And if they didn't do that, if they, you know, the weirdest thing is that if they would just get the fuck out of the way with the chores, the game might actually be fun. But no, this is like, you know, there's a lot that they could improve, but I don't think they necessarily need to strive to have like a cinematic presentation like World of Warcraft. Like there were actually a couple of quests in BFA in terms of their cinematic presentation that I remember from the guy, is it Harrison Jones? I don't know if Harrison Jones was the one. I think it was. But there were a couple of quests in BFA with Harrison Jones where you're actually going, you're kind of like going to plunder some fucking temple somewhere. Those were actually pretty fun. And they don't have like a big story implication. They were just a couple of fun quests that you would do with some fun things along the way. But, you know, ultimately, we all know they're not going to do that, so whatever.
You know, it's about how it constructs its narrative. Actually, let's talk about narrative construction. So this is a bit versus WoW. I think it's just an easy way to explain to most of the people who will be watching this video what's up. World of Warcraft tends to give you very broad world building as you are leveling up through the new zones to the new level cap. The A-plot basically doesn't progress that much. And Shadowlands has been quite funny for that, you know? Even with all the quest content in Shadowlands, the core story feels super, super rushed. And I almost wonder if they would have been way better having, you know, a more trimmed down cast of characters and telling less of the broad lore, maybe cutting a few elements out, but, you know, actually having us deal with, say, Sylvanas as we're leveling up, and properly engaging with the A-plot of the expansion as we're playing the expansion. Instead of, you know, getting a guided tour of 4 different themed areas and then an A-plot that feels mega rushed and, you know, just so poorly supported by enjoyable in-game material that it falls over. There's lessons to be learned here, man. In FF, like, the plot is the plot. They don't hold things back for endgame, it seems.
You know what else didn't hold things back for fucking books, baby? Woo!
Whole thing feels like one big story with the patches just continuing the story. You know, just that here, the patches are adding to a complete, satisfying, and well-motivated core story, so it just feels like they have so much more to work with. So I guess it just seems to me that FF14's way of constructing a narrative within the constraints of an MMORPG
Alexander
is super successful, way more so than Blizz, and Blizz needs to take notes. If you want the story you're trying to tell now to work, then scrap the books. Wow, think deeply about FF14, get some emotes made that aren't hyper goofy, put the player in the story, and then have the confidence to tell that story and give your A plot what it needs to shine.
I don't know if it needs
gameplay then. All right, dungeons. They're just.
I really don't know if World of Warcraft should even try to compete in that arena, because at this point, they're just going to end up getting compared to Final Fantasy XIV, and I don't believe that there's enough talent in the WoW team to do what Final Fantasy XIV has done. Not anymore. So I don't even think that they should try to compete in that arena. They just need to focus on fixing their gameplay first, which is what it says on the stupid fucking orc statue outside of Blizzard. And I call it stupid because it's fucking Thrall. And it's like, dude, come on. Can we put a dwarf in there? Or can we get some Alliance representation? No, it's just like, oh no, there's big fucking Thrall riding on a wolf and it says gameplay first next to it. Come on, dude. We know of your obvious Horde bias. But anyways, besides the point. It's like, I just think that they should focus on fixing their gameplay first, make their game fun to play first, and, tell a story in whatever way you need to tell it. Just make sure that you actually tell that story in the fucking game. I don't want to go buy your fucking Sylvanas book. I'm not going to buy your fucking Sylvanas book to begin with, because Sylvanas is a shitty character. I mean, she probably wasn't, but, with the interactions we've had with her over the last couple of years, she became one of the shittiest characters in the game. So it's like, the last thing I want to do is buy a fucking Sylvanas book. Sylvanas can burn in hell for all I fucking care. Although she did do one good thing, though. We have to give it to her, all right? Sylvanas did a really cool thing. She fucking burned Teldrassil to the ground, baby. Woo! Yeah.
Better. It's as simple as that, really. There's more fun bosses with more clear mechanics. I mean, I've only done each one of them once, right? So, take that with a pinch of salt. I've been doing everything as a part of the story, so I've not done, the harder modes of the primals or anything like that. But yeah, it seems like fun content. Now, quest design, that's still the gameplay aspect. Now, that ends up not mattering that much, but, I mean, Blizz will often... I've been doing everything.
The fuck was that jump cut? Did you guys hear that jump cut? Look at this.
Everything as a part of the story, so I've not done, the harder modes of the primals or anything like that. But yeah, it seems like fun content. Now, quest design, that's still the gameplay aspect. Now, that ends up not mattering that much, but, I mean, Blizz will often, script more custom interactions and things in their quests. Okay. So, outside of duties, FF14 is a bit more simple, right? It's like, if we're going to move to a place with a bunch of characters, they'll just give me 3 waypoints that I go to and it spawns a quick little encounter and I move on. And from a gameplay perspective, that doesn't feel mega good. Now, the thing is, though, that ends up not humongously mattering because your actions generally feel quite in alignment with the narrative, and they're able to work around seemingly some constraints of what they can pull off in a quest.
One of the things that I would actually like to see for Endwalker is more quests that are actually hard. Like I remember, particularly during I think it was one of the tank role quests. I remember that one actually being hard. Like I failed it once or twice. I was like, man, this quest is not fucking around. It's not pulling any punches. Like that was cool. And in a way, I wish that most of your leveling quests were not just like, oh, I'm going to go here, I'm going to kill this thing, and I'm going to win, and I'm going to keep going. Like, I wish there was a bit more challenge in some of these quests. Like, actually give us more mechanics to deal with when you do make gameplay. I'm not saying that the whole game needs to be it needs to be fucking Final Fantasy Dark Souls edition. That's not what I'm saying. But I would like more challenge. Because, I mean, let's face it, when you're leveling up a character, there are very few things that are challenging at all. I wish that is one of the things that 14 could definitely improve on, is like make it more challenging as you are leveling up.
So that basically means that traveling about and conversing and all of that, it does feel like gameplay because really you're there for the narrative experience. And I guess that is actually the thing, you know? You don't need to rely on the most intricate quest you can think of when the core storyline just gets people really hooked and excited. Now that said, I would love to see how this grows in Stormblood and Shadowbringers and where they end up going with their quest design and if they can really elevate the narrative in more ways than they do already. Okay, so some thoughts on this versus A Realm Reborn. I would say that 3.0, like, it does totally smash 2.0. Like, totally smashes it. I will say that ARR's patch ending, like, it felt more surprising and immediately engaging to me than the ending of 3.0.
Yep.
But, in a way, the ending of ARR patch was...
But you're talking about the... Wait. Okay, no, he's talking about the ending, because, like, he was showing footage of the post patches. This is post patch, and he was talking about the ending of ARR. I thought he was talking about the actual post patches, but he's referencing the post patches now. So never mind my point.
Really like the ending of the first little arc of Heavensward, right? So I don't know if that's splitting hairs, but it does absolutely have me quite excited for what 3.3 and I guess 3.5 or whatever are going to be like, because it seems to me that they have set up the current situation so well. I mean, those end cinematics with is it Ediblius? The Ascian, right? And I'll get into a little bit of a spoilery about that. Like the setup with that, of course. What happens, the eyes, right? Like it's definitely set it up that like I've had a really satisfying narrative where I have dealt with one big core threat, and I mean, yeah, the whole Pope bad thing, some people will say that's like a little bit of a common trope, or maybe it's something more common to like us or something here, but I still really did enjoy it with Thordan and all of that. So we'll see, but it just seems to me that versus ARR, they really do have everything like even better set up for future storytelling now, so I'm very excited to see what those patches do. Now, as I move into like a few more things, and of course, like, spoilers and etc. The Warrior of Darkness, what's going on there? He looks like Meteor. I am told that, like, all will make sense, but that was definitely a bit of a, like, oh, what the fuck? It was, like, one of those moments. I mean, Meteor's there, but, like, I've always known there's been a thing here, and I know that, like, Meteor, like, in the cinematics, like, is the stand-in for the player character canonically, so I think they're just doing something interesting here, so it'll be very interesting to see where that goes, suffice to say. Other things then, I mean...
What is he calling him? Meteor? Why is he calling him Meteor? Canonical name is Meteor Survivor. Really? I wasn't aware of that. Okay.
The Dragon Song War? I know there's something called Ishgard Restoration, and I feel like Ishgard, like, it needs help, but it doesn't need restored yet, so I'm certainly wondering what's going to go on during these patches. Then, as I said, yeah, just that patch story excitement. I really am there for it, and I really am just wondering... I'm wondering what's next. And there's even nice little things, too. Like, I know I go to Doma, the Domans in Stormblood. And, of course, in the Heavensward questing, I was like, the Roban jailbreak was with Yugiri, who's going to be a character in Stormblood. And it's just that sort of thing where it's like, oh yeah, all these characters, they're going to be sticking around, right? And I think that's just really, really neat.
Look at that. He's just like, you mean you're not going to recycle all the characters when the patches, when the next expansion comes? No, the characters stick around. That's how it works.
It feels like...
Well, some of them anyway. Pour one out for our boy. Pour one out for our boy, man.
It just feels like it's, as an overarching plot with all of its characters and all of its players and its pieces, it's just all quite well conceived and decently. It must have been all quite well conceived in advance too. It seems like they know where they're going with all of this, and I guess in a way where it feels like they don't have to cut and chop their narrative all the time. So it's just very, very satisfying. There is also the big moment, of course, Smile better suits a hero, right?
Dude, you can't just, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the fuck? He literally just cuts with this without any fucking warning. How can you just cut to this without any fucking warning, dude? That's fucked up.
I now understand where that line comes from. And I mean, man, yeah, shit, that was a really well done scene. And especially too, considering the limitations that they're dealing with how their character models can act and all of that. Like, they really did make that more than the sum of its parts. And that's just a testament to how well they've done all of this storytelling. All the stuff with the Horschfont as well is just... Yeah, it was just sort of done perfectly, meeting him in the ARR level up experience, that he takes us in, and yeah, they set things up and they pay them off very satisfyingly. It's like those, the bread and butter basics of storytelling, they just do in a super
just
solid
wait till
way,
you do the patches.
That is just something that gives me great faith in the overall IP, and it'll be interesting. I've heard some things about Stormblood that aren't the most glowing, but from what I understand,
Yep, Lisa's face. See, that was a perfect cut. He's like, I've heard about some things in Stormblood that aren't the most glowing, and there's just like a close-up on Lisa's face. That is like the most perfect editing you could have for that segue. Thank you, whoever edited that video. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. 100% agreed. Does anybody here disagree that Lisa is one of the worst fucking parts of Stormblood? Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, I was hoping that I would never have to look at her again. Unfortunately, I have to look at her later during Shadowbringers, but...
I actually like Stormblood quite a bit. I mean, thematically, it seems super up my alley. And then it's just thinking like of what they were able to achieve with Heavensward, and then thinking about what people say of Shadowbringers, and like, it's newer, they'll be able to do more things. It's like, man, what a journey. Now, unfortunately, I do believe that the creator of Final Fantasy, he's thoroughly trounced me when it comes to MSQ progression.
Get rocked.
Look, I have reorganized things. I've rescheduled things. I'll be into Stormblood pretty soon. I am feeling... Man, it feels so good to be this in.
Wait, did he type Shadowlands?
And all those things I said in the past comes to MSQ progression.
Listen, this right here is fucking fighting words, dude. What the fuck? Like, dude, come on. I highly doubt that Hironobu Sakaguchi is playing fucking Shadowlands, all right? Them's fighting words. This is a serious insult, okay?
But look, I have reorganized things. I've rescheduled things. I'll be into Stormblood pretty soon. I am feeling... Man, it feels so good to be this in with a game and in with a narrative. And all those things I said in the past, like, they just stand so much. Like, I feel like my character is a character here. The other characters know my character, Like, so whenever, Yustola comes back and, for a little bit, it's the new gang going off together. And you just get a sense all these people know each other. They've got a shared history. It's all with my character as well. And that's what's been missing in some other games. So, hats off to you, Creative Business Unit 3. You do a damn good job, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. I hope you're enjoying following along with my journey.
Yes, we are, Bellular.
Matt's working on a super cool video for the channel very soon. So be sure to sub for that. Thank you for all of your support. It's meant so much. And that's it for me. Have a wonderful day. See you next time.
Dude, this remix of Bozja is fucking legit. It's pretty good. Dude, it's like, here's the interesting part, right? See, right now, Bellular, he's still going about things, and he's going like, oh man, imagine how cool this would be in World of Warcraft, right? Because, he's experienced Realm Reborn. He's like, oh man, imagine how cool it would be this in World of Warcraft. Now he's going through Heavens where he's like, oh my God, this is so great. Imagine if World of Warcraft did this. He's going to do that. He's going to do that a little bit less in Stormblood. And then when he gets to Shadowbringers, like, well, guys, we're shutting down the Bellular Warcraft channel. We hope you guys enjoyed the content. You can all subscribe now to Bellular FFXIV. And yeah, we'll see you guys in Eorzea. That's gonna be what it's gonna be like when he gets to fucking Shadowbringers. He's gonna be done with it, dude. It's like it's over. Orida.